Welcome to Behind the Bower. I'm Susan Martin, Executive Director of Bower Center for the Arts, and we're happy to have you back with us today. I'm very excited. I have two guests that are going to be joining me today. Katie Viemeister. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning, Susan.
And also Dennis Caldwell, who will be coming in just a few moments to join us. So we're really excited to get this day started and talk to you a little bit about some really neat experiences that take place at Bower Center for the Arts, but that also support artists in general around our community and around our region. Today, we're going to have a little chat about the importance of artist residencies and talk a little bit about the Bower Center's Susie Viemeister Emerging Artist Program, and also hear from our current emerging artist who will be joining us in just a few moments. Just to give a little background to those of you that aren't familiar with artist residencies, they actually provide the opportunity for artists to actually work in what is a new and hopefully inspiring environment. We want to help them to connect with other creative individuals, not only in our atmosphere or in the Bower Center in general, but also around the community and the region. It also offers artists the opportunity to showcase their work to a wider audience and focus solely on their art. It's a great opportunity, and residencies are offered across the country. We have artists that are studio artists at Bower Center for the Arts, and they travel all around the country doing different residencies, learning different things. Some of them have instruction involved in them where they're learning different forms of art. Some of them are giving them opportunities to try new things, but then others are just offering the opportunity to get creative and showcase their artwork in the place where they're located, which I think is really neat.
Yeah.
They can also be life-changing experiences. They can offer artists a really great opportunity to expand their work and become known in their community and or their region for their work and build their business. As we know, artists are small business owners to themselves. Bower Center for the Arts began offering our annual artist residency in around 2020. And it is called the Susie Viemeister Emerging Artist Residency Program, thanks to the generous support of the Viemeister family, which is why we have Katie joining us today. And it provides artists, the opportunity to further develop their artistic skills, learn more about the business behind the art, how to develop an exhibit, and also be supported by other creative individuals and professional mentors during the program. So I want to introduce or allow Katie to introduce herself, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Susie Viemeister Emerging Artist Program. So Katie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, my name is Katie Viemeister, and I am one of Susie Viemeister's daughters and one of several of her kids. And this was something that our family felt would be a good way to honor our mother's memory and legacy. She was a big supporter of the arts. She loved art. She studied art. Art was a very big part of her life. And when she passed away, she had an extensive art collection as well as collection of art books. Thousands of books, I think is safe to say.
I would say so. And we are also the fortunate benefactor of many of those books and have opened the Susie Viemeister Library at the Bower Center for the Arts. And they're just beautiful.
Well, I'm so glad that they're being used. And that was where we felt they should go, because she had this huge collection of books and we couldn't take all of them. And we just thought, maybe the Bower Center could use these books, and it would be a good opportunity for artists that have studio space there or just artists in the community to be able to use those books.
Absolutely.
It's a larger collection than you'd find in any library or even bookstore.
Most definitely.
Yeah, she had started collecting those books from the time she was, I'd say, easily in her early 20s, anytime she went anywhere. And like I said, she was also had an extensive art collection.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she passed away, there were all these paintings and all these pieces of artwork that she had. And we were like, what are we going to do with all of this? I mean, we all chose various pieces to keep for ourselves as well as some of the books. But we thought, we really should do something with all of this. And so that's kind of how the idea got started. We were like, well, we could donate the books to the Bower Center, and I'm sure they could use them. But the artwork themselves, And it just, amongst talking, we decided, okay, yeah, we'll just have an auction and sell off the artworks to hopefully get enough money together to support a residency type program.
Right.
And in collaboration with the people there at Bauer Center, and we all thought that was a great idea.
Right.
And so the art collection was sold and provided the financing for this, and because we knew it was something my mother would be all for, because she was very supportive of up and coming artists and just artists in general, because she knew how difficult it was for people to make a living as an artist, and to get the support and encouragement when they're coming along. And we thought this would be a good opportunity for people who are beginning at all ages.
Right.
And as much as my mother loved art, she never really actively did any artwork until she was in her 60s.
Exactly.
When she started taking watercolor classes, drawing classes, and, some kind of formal teaching. And so.
Well, I mean, we are extremely excited that this came about. We were very fortunate that I believe the auction happened in late 2018.
It was, November of 2018.
Right.
And we just were like, this is a good way for her, even though she physically has left the building, as they say, she can still be an active participant in the art community through her legacy.
Right.
And she can still be supporting people.
Yes.
Through this. And she can live on through this.
Right. And we've been very fortunate. We launched the Actual Emerging Artist, which is a residency program that are, as you mentioned, artists in our region or in our community can apply. There is a process for application, and there is a selection committee to select the emerging artist. We host one each year. We hosted our first in 2020, young man by the name of Eric Bryant.
Yep, Eric Bryant. Yep.
And Eric was also fortunate or unfortunate enough, he was able to extend his residency because of COVID.
Right.
And we at the time couldn't do his exhibit and or open the Emerging Artist Program up to a new artist because of our closure. But we did host him for about a year and a half and had his exhibit. And the interesting thing about our Emerging Artist Program is the artist receives a studio space in Bauer Center for the Arts to work from for about 9+ months. It's just depending upon the artist's schedule, but it is open to them for about 9 or 10 months. And their residency ends with a solo exhibit at the Bauer Center for the Arts. So they work towards developing their work for that exhibit, which is where we are now with our current emerging artist. The exhibit just opened a couple of weeks ago. So we're very excited about that with Dennis.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, we've seen, as you mentioned, the age range of the artists that enter and or have been emerging artists. We're only on our third right now, and we just opened up the application process December 1st for the 2024 emerging artists. So if anybody's out there listening and they're interested, that's available on our website or by contacting Bauer Center for the Arts, and we can send them the application information. But the artists, people think, well, I'm, not an up and coming artist, or I've been doing art for a long time. Well, it can be an individual that,
hasn't really done a
Exactly.
lot. You can be somebody who's just graduating high school to somebody who's in their 60s.
Absolutely.
Who, they've dabbled, at home privately. They've done, done some drawings or this or that, and they want to pursue this goal.
Right.
And so it's not just specifically directed at only young people.
Right.
It's for all age groups.
Yeah. One of the only criteria is that the main criteria is that the artist cannot have had their own solo exhibit in the past.
Right.
We would like them to have actively been involved in the arts, basically 5 years or less, but that doesn't mean that it has to have been 5 consecutive years. There's a lot of artists out there that may have done some work early on, and then, life gets in the way and they take a break and then they're coming back to it. I talked to a lot of artists that COVID had a lot to do with the lack of creativity, or
Hmm.
they went in a different direction with their creativity. And so I know that there's artists out there that are looking for this great opportunity that they can work in this environment that might inspire them to create something new. So we're always looking for those artists that are looking for that opportunity.
Yes, this very much in keeping with how she was with local artists. She was a patron of the arts, and
Hmm.
she
Hmm.
would, she was very much for the underdog,
Right,
and the beginner and the person who's just starting out. And this was just a great opportunity to honor her
right, right,
and keep this going and just keep going with young people, or young to the world of art,
right, right.
regardless of the age.
Yes.
And to, hey, come on, no, you can do it. Give it a try. Give it a
Yeah.
try. We've got people here who are happy to support you and help guide you and help you develop and grow as an artist, and,
Right, right.
find your wings, what you like to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit more about your mom. Was she a Bedford native, or how did she come about coming to the Bedford area? What was her
No, she was not a Bedford native. She is from the north. Yeah,
a northerner?
yeah, she's a northerner. She she was in New York for many years and had always loved the state of Virginia. She did have family down here at one point in time, and she and my dad, early on in their marriage, had thought about moving to Virginia, and she eventually moved here. Um, I don't know. I don't remember how old she was at the time. I don't know, late 60s, early 70s,
Uh
but
huh.
she'd come down here frequently. Um, but she loved the Bedford area. My dad had moved down here. My brother had moved down here, and she loved the Bedford community.
Right.
She loved the town of Bedford, and it was a very strong art community, and she loved that. It was part of the community,
Mm-hmm.
because other places where she lived through her life, she loved going to art museums and galleries and such, but in the towns where she lived, art was not really a big thing.
Right.
But but here she felt like she fit in.
Right. Immersed herself in that.
Yeah, exactly. And getting to know people, and one thing that was kind of fun, what she would do is, I mean, especially she would be over at Goose Creek Gallery often with Patrick and Mitchell, and people would come in that are, up and coming artists, so to speak, and they'd be talking about a specific artist or what that person liked to do. And she knew they would come in there often, and she'd go home and find one of her books that related to the conversation that they had had earlier, and she'd keep it with her. And if she ran into them in town, she would give them the book. She would say,
Wow.
remember the time, we were talking about Degas, and well, here, I have this book for you that you might find interesting. You might find it helpful. And that was just the kind of person she was. And
Yeah.
that kind of, again, was another reason for donating all the books to Power Center.
Right.
So
Right.
people had access to that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Amazing.
And we were happy to do it.
Well, we have just been joined by Dennis, and Dennis Caldwell is our current 2023 Susie V. Meister Emerging Artist. Welcome, Dennis.
Hello, Dennis.
Hi.
Glad that you could join us today. Dennis is we're gonna talk to him for a little bit and tell us a little bit about himself and explain how he became interested in art. So, Dennis, introduce yourself to everybody.
So my start began when I did Art 1 and Art 2 at Liberty High School, and I didn't really think I would ever be an artist or anything like that. I'd say the year 2019 is when I started picking it back up, and just started drawing for fun. In 2021, that's when I was really into YouTube tutorials and just looking at other artwork I could see on the internet. I saw a particular style of charcoal drawing and a particular style of oil painting that I wanted to at least get something close to, and that's where it started.
Tell us a little bit about, because I've had the pleasure of seeing you working on your work in our studio during your residency, and obviously to experience your exhibit, which is currently being shown at Bauer Center for the Arts. Tell me a little bit about what some of your favorite work is, and kind of how does that work come about? How do you come up with those ideas, or the direction that you go in?
Sometimes it's depending on the kind of music that I'm listening to, or sometimes I'll listen to a movie, something like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, or something that I particularly enjoyed in my childhood. Or maybe it's just something, how I feel in the very moment. Um, I just go on feeling. There's a lot of artists out there who will try to plan everything, but I think the best way to do it is to just go with the flow and not really have a script, and just go as much as you can. And if you have to take a break, which you should, then just come back to it and try to pick up where you left off.
Do you find yourself ever working on a piece and deciding to go in a totally different direction, or do you ever just walk away from pieces altogether?
I've picked up pieces that maybe it was like a month or 2 month break. Sometimes it is hard to go back to something that I was working on and trying to finish it. But yeah, typically I'll just find something to paint. Usually it's a person, because that's the hardest subject to paint. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about when you applied for the Emerging Artist Program at the Bauer Center. What made you apply? What interested you? What were the opportunities that you were looking forward to?
Um, I saw the 24/7 access to a studio, something that I've never had, or I never really thought I would have. And um, and the fact that you wouldn't have to pay anything, and but also, to in order to get myself out there, I didn't have anything to lose. And I've always wanted to go into the Bauer Center, and I had never gone into it until then. And I think it's a great building. I've had many fun hours just painting and drawing, and doing as much as I can to fulfill the goal of making artwork and stuff.
Yeah. So the name of your exhibit is Dynamic. So tell me a little bit about what that entails. What can folks expect if they come to see your exhibit?
I had to find a title that would fit um, all of my different pieces. There was no one title that I could find. Dynamic is always changing, always moving, um, just constantly in motion, and there is a lot of motion in my artwork, and I hope to keep that in there. I'm not sure what my artwork will look like 2 years from now, but hopefully it's genuine and it's from the heart and just based on feeling.
What after the Emerging Artist Program comes to an end, kind of what do you envision yourself? What direction do you envision yourself going in with your art? And do you have any other plans so far for the future?
I'm taking it as far as I can. I'm going to have my own business, and hopefully I can really make a living off of commissions, but also showing in art galleries and showing over the internet.
Great, that's awesome. Tell a little bit about just quickly who you are. You're a Bedford native, correct?
Mhm. Yes.
So born and raised, and tell a little bit about where you went to school and that type of thing.
I went to Liberty High School, and that's here in Bedford, Virginia. I graduated in 2017. I did outdoor track all 4 years, indoor track for 2 years. I enjoyed my time there. There's a lot of great people I met, and a lot of great teachers, a lot of great support, especially the coaches. Uh, Running track really helped me keep my grades up, and helped me keep focusing on the goal of eventually graduating. There were some times when I didn't think I'd make it. Just all the hard classes that I piled myself up on, especially junior year. That was really difficult. But I've lived here all my life. Um, my favorite running spot is the Bedford Loop, the same loop that is used for the Christmas Classic. Most people in Bedford probably have seen me there, running out there,
Yeah.
in the cold, the severe cold and the severe hot, and I'm glad to be in this town. It's really peaceful. I could accidentally leave my phone on a bench, and it would still be there. Like 5 miles later, I'll come back to it, but I'm not going to test that. I think it's just a real peaceful town, and now I'm open to plein air painting, so hopefully I can do more of that around town. And
Quickly tell folks a little bit about what plein air painting is.
plein air painting is painting a subject live. It could be inside or outside. You got your easel. You're just painting the subject as you see it, however you feel you want to paint it, and it's all about in the moment. You could finish it in the studio, but typically you want to do 50% on scene, so you can have that freshness to it.
And will guests have an opportunity to see some of that work in your exhibit?
The one plein air piece that I did at the Bauer Center, it's in the studio.
Uh-huh.
Out of all the pieces, that it was that was the only one that I have as far as plein air in there, and then there's a painting of some canned tomatoes that I did. That's in the show, so I haven't done too much plein
Okay.
air. It's mainly through references, through photo references.
Right. And guests that come to the Bauer Center to see your show can also go up and see the work that's in your studio too, correct?
Yes, and I'm working on the largest canvas that I've ever worked on. It's a painting of a girl, and I enjoy painting people, and we'll see where that goes. But I've changed my mind on it like 3 times, and I've changed the color on it, and it takes some time to cover the whole canvas.
My sister does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'll start out with a really nice still life, and you're like, wow, that's great. That's coming along beautifully. Oh, I'm still working on it. And 3 days later, you come back, and I'm like, wow, that's so different now
Than what it was.
yeah, because she's just kind of, well, you know what, changed her mind. But
And that's an artist's that's their
that's their
perspective, and that's
prerogative,
their
yeah.
prerogative
And
to do that.
And I've noticed that with Dennis. There's been a few times when I've been at the Bauer Center, I've gone upstairs and taken a peek into your studio as you've left the door open, which is really nice, and been able to see some of your work as it's developing and coming along. And there have been a couple of pieces I'm like, wow, that's definitely different from the first time I saw it. But wow, I thought it looked good the first time, and now it looks even better. So,
That's what it's all about, the journey.
Yeah.
You could take something that starts off as a sketch and just put motion in it, put your heart and soul into it, and that's all that matters. And listening to music, the type of music that you listen to has a huge effect on the finished
Right.
product.
Right.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It might affect your focus, but at the end, as long as you're enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the journey, and I think that's important to emphasize that when guests or individuals visit the Bauer Center, they can actually visit all of our studio artists' studios, but especially the Emerging Artist Studio, and see your journey. If they want to pop in and pop out very regularly, they can see work that you're working on in studio, and see the journey that you're taking and the changes that you may be making to a piece of art or the new art that you may have started on. So I think that's extremely important, that's an opportunity for not only the artists themselves, but for guests to come in and experience that.
Yeah, I've seen that Arik still has studio space there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I've, peeked in on his studio as well to see, how he's developed and come along and some of the new pieces he's been working
Yeah.
on. And my mother would just love that.
Yeah.
She just, and as you've been saying, it's, the journey. And that's really what it's all about for a lot of people, is the journey of starting from here. And it's not so much a destination, but what you're learning and growing and developing and experiencing and doing and feeling and putting it out there. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put a spin on that as we kind of come to a close today, that we hope that other individuals will consider coming in and taking that journey at Bauer Center for the Arts, either by in sending in a submission to become our next emerging artist for 2024.
Take a class.
Come by and visit the galleries, exhibits. The admission is always free. visit with our studios and our studio artists. We specifically want to invite everybody to come out this Friday evening. From 5 to 7 is our artist reception, and it's open to the public. You can enjoy holiday refreshments while you're viewing the exhibits, hear remarks from both our artists. We actually have 2 solo exhibits going on right now. We have the emerging artist Dennis Caldwell with Dynamic, and then we also have Delmas Phelps, who was the 2022 winner of our national juried exhibition, and he has a solo exhibit called Realism, It Matters. Both artists will be there at the reception this Friday night from 5 to 7, and they'll be making some remarks about 6 o'clock. So you have the opportunity to talk with them, hear more about their process, learn more about their art. It's very family friendly. Kids can participate in our art venture scavenger hunt. We're also launching a new little search for Warhol, who is our mischievous elf, who will be placed randomly. He'll be moving around the Bauer Center starting this week. And so families can come in and search for him. And if you find him, each week will be a little different prize for the families. So there'll be some fun things going on during that as well. And then just a reminder, we also have our final show of the year coming up on Saturday, December the 9th. It is John Hardy. He performs Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and it's a one-man show. He performs all of the all the roles and characters. Yeah. It's amazing. He changes his dialect, and it's just he was here 2 years ago with that performance, and it was just wonderful. So we're really excited to have him back. And I think I mentioned it on our last podcast that if you buy your tickets now and use the promo code Holly Jolly in all caps, you'll get $5 off the $15 ticket price. So we hope folks will take advantage of that this weekend. That'll be our final performance of the year and kind of wrapping up our holiday performances. So I'm very appreciative, Katie and Dennis. Thank you for joining me today. We look forward to talking with some new guests next week, and we hope you'll join us on Behind the Bauer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.